Oh, these look really good. This is what I want right here. Nice and long panicles. Well, hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. My oldest granddaughter and I have been working on a video over a couple month period on the different methods that we like to use for drying flowers. We've just been drying flowers like crazy. So I'm going to show you the footage that we were working on, and then at the very end I'll show you, I'll give you a tour of my garden shed now, which has become a dried flower shed. But let's take these over and I'll show you what I'm going to do with these real quick. I'm going to show you the method I use for drying these in the actual main part of the video, but we'll take a look at what we're doing here. So I had to go in and put on my sunglasses because the gnats were making their final efforts of bugging me, no pun intended. But remember, you can cut your paniculata Hydrangea Blooms whatever stem length you want, because your paniculatas bloom on new wood. So you're not cutting off any buds for the following year. That's one of the great things about them. And this is the perfect time to cut your Hydrangea Blooms when they look like this. If you try to cut them too early in the summer when they're not ready, they just basically wilt. So I have a couple of inches of very warm water in this bucket, in these buckets, and the blooms will soak up and hydrate the water. They'll soak up all the water, it will evaporate, and then your blooms will basically be dried. So we're supposed to get some temperatures. Our low next week is supposed to be 31 degrees Fahrenheit. So that will kind of do a number on all of these blooms and turn them brown. So I wanted to get a few more dried. These are so fun to dry. Anyway, let's take a look at the main body of this video and we'll see the different methods I use. And we're going to be doing a voiceover, so not my favorite thing to do, but anyway, that's what we did. And then be sure and stay tuned at the end so that you can see a tour of the garden / dried flower shed. This is one of the methods my granddaughter really likes to use for preserving flowers. This is a flower press and it is from Gardener's Supply. I'll put that in the link below. And you can see it's made of 2 pieces of heavy wood with the pressing pages in between. And you can use the pressing pages over and over again. Looks like there she already had some things in there she had previously pressed. But she chose all the flowers that she wanted to press, and then she places them like she likes them. She uses her pressed flowers in bookmarks and cards and frames. She frames them and gives them as gifts and things like that. You can fit quite a few on one page, on one section of page. And you can reuse the pages over and over again. She's had this one for a couple of years. And once you get the amount of flowers you want to press, you can just reassemble it and put the wooden top back on. And then you can see she uses the strap to really cinch it down pretty well so that the flowers will press. And then it comes time for the big reveal. So you just open up your press. She likes to leave the flowers in the press for about 2 weeks, and that gives them enough time to draw all the moisture out and press the flowers really well. And there you see all the flowers that she pressed. And then you just basically peel them off of the pressing page. We like to store them in a shoe box away from direct sunlight in a dry place, and that really holds them nicely. I really like the flowers she chose there. That looks like a celosia. Look how that came out just so perfectly. That's going to be beautiful in a frame or something. And now we come to the next method we like to use, and that is drying flowers in silica gel. And these aluminum roaster pans work great for drying because they have a lid. So you put about an inch or so of silica gel in the bottom just to cover the bottom of your pan completely. And she chose all the flowers again that she wanted to use for drying in the silica gel. Drying a flower face down is a lot of times the best way. Now you can see that one zinnia she dried face up. I think she chose that way just because it had the bigger bloom head on it there. But usually she dries them face down like you can see there. So it looks like she wasn't real sure which way to dry this rose. She kind of turns it over, but then she made the right decision by drying it face down. And then those bells of Ireland, we were really excited to see how they would dry. And they just did so beautifully. When you dry flowers in silica gel, they retain their color really well. And one of the keys to drying flowers in silica gel is to make sure that you cover the flowers you're drying completely. You can see the silica gel there we had already used. You can reuse silica gel over and over again, and then you can recharge it and refresh it by putting it in the oven. I believe it's like 250 degrees Fahrenheit for a couple of hours, which we've done many times, just to refresh it. That's one of the great things of silica gel is you're not wasting it. You could just use it over and over again. And I buy my silica gel, sometimes I buy it from Amazon, sometimes I buy it from a craft store, just depends. This was another brand, that's why it's a different color. And then you want to make sure you cover whatever you're using to dry with the silica gel. Put those vessels out of direct sunlight, and it can be anywhere from a week to 10 days, sometimes more, sometimes less, just depending on what you're drying. And you can see here that time has passed, so we are now revealing what we've dried. And it's always good to wash your hands really well after you deal with the silica gel. Look how well that turned out. Some of the little bells fell off, but that's totally fine. You can use those in other projects. But I just love how they stayed intact. They kept their color. And this video was filmed several months ago, or well, not several, but a couple of months ago. We filmed it in stages, obviously. So I still have the bells of Ireland, of course, you know, and they look exactly the same as when they dried. So I'm very, very pleased at how they dried, and I'm very pleased at how things dry in silica gel in general. You just kind of tap it off and tap off your silica gel. If you have a little paintbrush or something like that to get the extra particles off of your dried flowers, that helps as well too. Oh, that's beautiful. Look how that turned out. So it's kind of like a treasure hunt. You kind of have to fish around and find everything that you dried. This next method is called the hydration evaporation method, and you can see there the panicle hydrangeas that I'm drying. You just put a couple of inches of water after you cut your hydrangeas, and you want to make sure you cut them at the right stage. You need to make sure that they've aged some, because when younger hydrangea blooms, they don't dry as well. So you do want to make sure you cut your hydrangea blooms at the right stage. And then you just put a couple of inches of lukewarm water in the bottom of your vessel, and you just let the water evaporate. And when the water evaporates, the bloom is completely dry. And you can see here some macrophylla hydrangeas. I'm doing the same method. You can also air dry macrophylla hydrangea blooms. I found that it doesn't work as well with the panicle hydrangea blooms, but the macrophyllas work really well. And I just basically tie them together like you would a string of fish or something like that, and so that I won't be wasting a lot of room for one and a lot of the twine. So I just tie them together and then hang them to dry. It takes about a week or so, week and a half, maybe two, just depending on your conditions, and then they will be completely dried. You can see there I have them hanging, and I'll hang them up on my drying rack. And here's another air drying method and hanging them upside down. This is Gomphrena that we're drying. With an air drying method and the hanging upside down method, you can prehydrate your whatever you're drying. Sometimes I do that and sometimes I don't, but you do want to strip off all the foliage of anything that you're drying basically. It dries the best that way. And then make fairly small bundles. And I like to use a rubber band to tie them together. If you just were to use the twine, there's almost no way to get that tight enough because your stems will shrink as they dry. So using a rubber band and then using the twine to tie around so that you can hang whatever it is you're drying is the best method that I've found. I've definitely had flowers on the floor the next couple of days as soon as they started to dry, just because they would shrink and I couldn't get my twine tight enough. So really using the rubber band is the best way first. And then you can just take your twine after you've put them together with the rubber band, tie them around, and there you go, they're ready to hang to dry. So let's take a quick tour of my garden shed, which has now become a full-on dried flower shed. I want to give a shout out to my friends at Valley Structures. If you're watching, I absolutely love it. And the style of this shed is called the condo style. Let me walk around to the side here, and you can see how the roof is slanted. And I had vents put in either side. And I had the ceiling heightened just a little bit from the normal model they sell. The light on there is from Tractor Supply, and that's a solar light. So it comes on at night, really fun. And I'm working on cleaning out all of my containers, planting cool flowers, cleaning out my garden beds. So we're in a transition right now, as most of you probably are as well. Let's go inside and take a look. This is an 8x8, and we did not finish it on the inside on purpose, and because I wanted just to keep it raw. And I'm fishing here for my my door prop, which is actually a garden stake. Let me prop the door back. It's not very big, but every time I walk in here, I just say, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a bonus space. We have barns and outbuildings, all kinds of sheds and things here on the farm. So this is just a fun bonus space. I'll stand here in the doorway before we walk in. These apple boxes were used here on the farm. We had a working orchard all of my husband's growing up life, and now most of the trees are gone. We have a few left that we can get apples from, but I'm so nostalgic that I wanted to use these apple boxes, and they make great storage boxes. And you can see I filled them up. My husband peeked in here the other day and he said, "Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. Everything was so nice and tidy." And I said, "Wow, okay, thank you." And he kind of said, "Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect." Anyway, I've been using a lot of the things that I've dried in different arrangements in the house and things. You can see the goldenrod and a lot of the dried grasses that are in there, but I've already used a lot. So I think we'll just go around this way, and then I'll back up and show you the hanging racks. But those are the paniculata hydrangeas that we just harvested, and some Mexican bush sage that I've dried. And my husband put up this pegboard to use for different things, and of course I'm using it for drying stuff. These bells of Ireland here were air dried, and you can see the difference when you put them in the silica gel, how they hold their color versus when you air dry them. They bleach out, but you know, it really doesn't matter to me. I love them either way. And those are the macrophylla hydrangeas that I'm drying in the hanging upside down style. So this shed is just used for just enjoyment. I just enjoy it so much. I did want to show you these cute little vintage seed packets here. My friend on Instagram, she's a great gardener, and she had these in her greenhouse, and I saw them and I said, oh my goodness, where did you get those? And she said she had found them on Etsy. So I went on Etsy, of course I had to order some. Aren't they the cutest things? They're vintage. And then the curtains my oldest granddaughter made for me, the one that you saw demonstrating a couple of the drying methods. She made these monarch butterfly curtains, so I have them in here and in my greenhouse. And I want to just pan down here and show you one of my favorite things to dry, which is the native fountain grass that we have here on the farm. I've been drying it for a couple of years now, and I don't know why. I just love it so much. You might have seen it on the sides of the road or something like that. That is called African fountain grass. One of my absolute favorite things. But more pegboard here, just storing some of my wreaths and things like that. My husband, Sweet William, put some of these, they're just wooden trellises up on the ceiling for me so I could use them as drying racks. And I'm loving those. Just drying everything I possibly can. This year has just been all about dried flowers for me. And I won't go over what all I've dried because I'm going to do a video on all the things that I grew from seed here real soon. And I'll talk about what I've dried from the things that I've grown from seed. So anyway, there's the little tour of the garden shed / dried flower shed. I'm really glad you were with me today. Thanks so much for being here. And I hope this video was of interest to you, and that if you don't already dry flowers, that you would give it a try. Maybe you're intrigued a little bit about drying flowers. There's something so rewarding about drying flowers from your own containers or your own flower beds. And it's, you know, something that you've harvested. It's just so rewarding. So until next time, friends, happy gardening. Bye-bye.